Well, a group of U.S. senators have prepared a bill in a bid to put an end to the National Security Agency's cyber spying on Americans. Lawmakers say the NSA's collecting of phone records and data on internet usage has cost the United States economically and has angered its allies. They argue that their bill is an appropriate response to disclosures this past summer about the controversial surveillance programs. Newly released documents show the NSA spied on civil rights icon Martin Luther King, heavyweight boxer Muhammad Ali, and even a number of senators. The U.S. administration is under heavy criticism both at home and abroad over its vast espionage program that includes many of Washington's close allies. The White House, however, continues to argue that the NSA programs are crucial in combating terrorism. Well, to discuss that a bit further, and I'm joined with Mr. James Morris, who is a political commentator, and he's joining us now on the line from Los Angeles. Mr. Morris, thanks a lot for joining us. Now, are the days numbered, do you think, for NSA's spying program, or will this continue?
Hello, thank you for having me back on Press TV. Much appreciated to have the opportunity to get out the truth to the world and Americans as well. I was looking over this, and we have Edward Snowden to thank for basically revealing the spying that the NSA has been up to on Americans, abusing Americans, innocent Americans, and their Fourth Amendment rights. But I was looking over the letter that was sent, and really it's just a letter that is asking the NSA to look over any abuses that have taken place under Section 215 of the Patriot Act and under the FISA course as well. It's not really curtailing the NSA spying, so to speak. And what we really have to address with this is what brought about spying and the FISA courts and all that, oversight of such. You go back to what made our terrorism problem, and that's U.S. support for Israel that resulted in 9/11. And then after that, the Patriot Act came into place, and we've had the infringement, abuse of our civil liberties. Like I said, the Patriot Act was instated, and after that, we had this spying, and American Congress will not address the root cause of the issue. And we've recently seen, you can go to my ushijack.com blog, that the NSA has been sending raw intelligence data to Israel on Americans. And that's not even been reported in the pro-Israel biased American media either. And I just think it's an outrage, really.
So then going forward, Mr. Morris, what exactly do you think will happen with the NSA? I mean, now we have these senators preparing this bill. Do you think that that will go forward?
Well, I think they'll send, if we're talking about the same thing here, what I just found on the internet recently, within the last few minutes, I think it's just a letter that I think Patrick Leahy and a couple of other senators on the Judiciary Committee have sent this letter to the Inspector General of U.S. Intelligence, and that's Charles McCulloch. And they just are asking for, basically some background or some oversight as to the abuses that Edward Snowden had courageously exposed. I mean, the bottom line is Americans had a suspicion that that kind of spying was going on by the NSA, but we really didn't know the extent of it, the full extent of it, until Edward Snowden did what he did so courageously. So the bottom line is, hopefully, we can have lawsuits put forward against the NSA, thanks to Edward Snowden, which exposed the abuses on innocent Americans that the NSA has been associated with. And how many terrorist attacks has the NSA really stopped? To my information, I think Rand Paul had mentioned this in the Senate, that there's only been one case of suspected terrorism that had been prevented, and that's even dubious. So I'm of the camp of Americans that we'd rather have our foreign policy and all these wars for Israel curtailed, like Iraq and Afghanistan, and you can go back to former CIA bin Laden unit head Michael Scheuer, and he said it's what we do in the Muslim world that results in this blowback terrorism that we have, rather than have our rights infringed on and abuse of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, Bill of Rights. I think we need to curtail the foreign policy instead of spying on Americans.
Right, but Mr. Morris, the argument from the NSA is that, we've just seen what happened in Nairobi. The NSA head, Keith Alexander, saying that, that could happen in the United States if the NSA is weakened.
Well, yeah, that is a valid point. I think that could easily happen tragically in U.S. shopping malls, but then it goes back to the root cause of it. You've had Kenya that has basically been a proxy for the U.S. Under the George W. Bush administration, the neocon administration of George W. Bush, they had these Islamic courts that were set up after, the Black Hawk Down situation in Somalia. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of Sharia law or anything like that, but the bottom line is they have a right to have whatever courts that they want. And the U.S. had Kenya and I believe Ethiopia as well intervene in Somalia. And the blowback from that was Al-Shabaab and these other Al-Qaeda affiliated groups. It goes back to what Michael Scheuer had said on C-SPAN for my call for him that day. I think you can go to tinyurl.com/9/11 motive media betrayal. And he said it's our intervention in the Arab Muslim world that is resulting in this blowback terrorism. And I think you saw another example of that by the look of it with the Kenyan shopping mall tragedy. I mean, they were basically getting back at
Okay, I
Kenya
do apologize,
for being
Mr.
the US
Morris, but I'm being
proxy
told that
in
we
Somalia.
have run out of time, so we'll have to leave it there for now. But of course, we do sincerely appreciate your insight. That was James Morris speaking to us live from Los Angeles.